Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, good evening. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 18, this meeting of the Dudley Board of Selectmen will be conducted in total or in part by remote participation. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the town's website at dudleyma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner: by YouTube Live and/or posted link at www.dudleyma.gov. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first up, we have the consent agenda. Acceptance of minutes of March 8th, 2021. Registrar, reappoint Liz Parent, term to expire March 31st, 2024. And Conservation Commission, resignation of Frank Gardecki. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I think we should take them separate.
Certainly. We'll
Make a
begin.
motion.
I'm
Go
sorry?
ahead. I was gonna say, just gonna make a motion then to reappoint Liz Parent, registrar, with a term to expire, and I just lost my agenda, so if somebody could tell me the agenda. I mean,
March
the
31st.
March 31st, 2024.
March 31st, 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Harry Sigenovich, aye, unanimous. Next, we have the acceptance of minutes of March 8th, 2021.
Resignation,
I'm sorry?
Conservation Committee resignation.
Oh, well, before that, we had the acceptance of the minutes first of March 8th.
All right,
So moved on the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
John Marcy, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Harry Sigenovich, aye, unanimous. Next, we have Conservation Commission.
Mr. Chair, make a motion, we accept with regret the resignation of Frank Gardecki from the Conservation Commission. And further, have you, on behalf of the board, send him a letter thanking him. Frank's been on that board for a number of years. And it's one of those boards that you don't really hear about until people think something's wrong. So we're gonna miss Frank's input.
Second, with regret.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Harry Sigenovich, aye, unanimous. And Michelle, could we get a letter out to Mr. Gardecki, please, with regret? Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have under new business, Dudley Little League, Don Colella, president of Dudley Little League, permission to hold annual parade on Saturday, March 1st, 2021, with a rain date of Saturday, May 8th, 2021, approved by Board of Health on March 16th, 2021. And I apologize, that's May 1st, 2021, not March 1st, 2021. Mr. Colella, are you with us this evening?
Before I begin, I am Dan Colella, the president of Dudley Little League. I'm probably going to make this pretty short and sweet for everybody. I've had a lengthy discussion today with our safety officer and some other members of the board of the Dudley Little League board. We've determined that parade day is probably too big to chew this year. Given the logistics that we've got from the Board of Health, some of the requirements that we'd have to follow in speaking with some of the other attendees. For example, the Shepherd Hill Band would not be able to be in attendance. So just given those challenges, I think we're going to focus our efforts more on putting a safe and solid season in the books, and maybe revisit parade day for our fall 2021 season, but and perhaps our spring 2022 season instead. So I don't know, do I officially rescind my request, or do you guys just tell me no, or where do we go from here?
Rhoda, how would you like us to handle this?
There was no motion yet. What was there?
No,
Well, then it'll just die for lack of a motion.
Through the chair, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Dan,
Mr.
just
Marcy.
when you do have a date for that, let us know. You know, it's one of my favorite days of the year. I'm sad to hear that. I always like supporting the kids.
It is one of mine too, but like I said, I just think it's a big challenge this year, and maybe I was a bit too ambitious to kind of take that on in this year. So we'll certainly let you know.
Please do. Thanks for all you do, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
With that said, I will leave you to the rest of your business this evening.
Bye, Dan.
Thank you,
Take care.
Mr. Colella.
Take
Dan,
care.
good
now.
luck good luck on a successful season, Dan. It's going to be a challenge.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Next on the agenda, under new business, we have Fish Road LLC, Nicholas Adamopoulos, draft of community host agreement, cannabis cultivation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for having me here. We do have John Angelevich and some members of his family on the Zoom tonight, as well as a couple members of the DMA team and their affiliates. Ultimately, we have presented you with a host community agreement draft that we will get into later on. To start off with, I know Dave Lahar has a presentation on his screen that we're hoping he can share. And really, I'd like just to have Joseph Lodico start with an introduction of the project. I know John's going to talk, and then we'll kind of have Dave go through the operations of what we're proposing on Fish Road.
Can I just grab control of the screen, or do you have to toss it to me? Oh, I can grab it. Okay,
You should have it and just
Yeah.
return it when we're done, okay?
pop that up there. And let's. So Joe, I think you're up.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? Thank you. Appreciate your time tonight. So real quick, this project came to us through John and his family, and they have a piece of property that they will get into in more detail once we go through this presentation, and came to us and kind of talked to us about, is there a possibility to do something that can kind of help both parties and to help us kind of fast track what we're trying to do and get product onto the market, and also to get some money rolling for the town and everything else. So right here, you guys will see Fish Road LLC was established by us, 50,000 square foot of greenhouse and cultivation. Just so you guys know, greenhouses is a lot different than what's being done at 35 Chase Ave. The greenhouse structure is a 50,000 square foot structure. It is a lot easier to put up as a structure. Hey, Dave, can you take over real quick?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I have something in the background. Guys, I'll be right back. Dave, please.
Not a
take
problem.
Thanks.
Not a problem. Fundamentally, what we're trying to do here, gentlemen, is to bring together a joint venture that will allow us to develop cultivation of high quality cannabis that will then be acquired through an exclusive contract by DMA as a way of supplementing and actually accelerating the availability of product for DMA. And fortunately, we have an excellent partnership with John and his family, and John will get into exactly where we're going to site this. The joint venture that we're putting together is essentially that John and his family will provide the land, the startup, the infrastructure development, the construction of the buildings. We will contract with DMA to provide genetics, to provide standard operating procedures and management and administrative services, but the JV itself will be a standalone venture. It will have its own cultivation license with the CCC. It will be looking to develop its own host community agreement with the town of Dudley, as you know. and it will be a very sophisticated greenhouse operation. We've done these things before, and there's while they are quasi outdoors, they do not lack in sophistication in terms of automation systems for temperature and humidity and fertigation, including the lighting and the light deprivation systems, security around this. And we'll get into this in more detail. But this is going to be a project where the actual location is not going to be some cultivation areas slapped together. It's going to be a unified, highly secure, and very sophisticated in its construction development. Let me just take a breath here and let John give you a sense of where it's being sited and what infrastructure development has to happen. John?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dave. So I'm going to kind of give you a little history on how today came about. Back in December, we were notified that this piece of land was up for sale, and it directly abuts a facility that we already have ongoing. In discussions, we realized in order to enhance our existing facility, we need to have three-phase power run to it. And our existing access way is through a deeded right-of-way, which we can only travel down and maintain. We cannot install any infrastructure. So we found this piece of property to be a good position to be able to install the three-phase eventually, and also to have secondary access into the property. So we made an offer on the property, and our offer was accepted. And then now we come to the point where, what else are we going to do with it? So I looked through the zoning and realized what it was zoned for special use. So I sat down and talked with Nick Adamopoulos and see what his thoughts were. And he introduced me to Dave Lahar and Joe Velatico, where we had some conversations about possibly putting up a 50,000 square foot cultivation facility. We find that the pros to this facility are that there's no real impact to any of the town water or municipal utilities, town water, town sewer. We're utilizing wells on site. There is the cost of running the three-phase power up to the facility, which helps us in the end get it to our next facility. And then, it's also the town benefit, 30 plus jobs, hopefully, and the 3% to the town. So what we're going to do is we're going to, as Dave mentioned, prep the pad site for this and go with them in a joint venture.
Great. Let me give you a little bit of a sense of some of the issues that we know that you are concerned with and we are concerned with as well. John gave you an overview on electricity. We'll be able to pull it through infrastructure development, as John described, but the actual utilization in terms of electricity is relatively modest. We'll be utilizing somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 amps to drive all of the greenhouse operations. Again, water, no impact because we'll have to go out of a well. However, just to give you a sense of usage, we took a look at what it would take to run this operation. It's about 5,600 gallons a day. And to put that in perspective, it's sort of 1% of the town's usage of water. Traffic and parking, we're going to roughly have 20 to 25 employees per shift. We will build adequate parking next to the greenhouse area, and the traffic in will not have too much impact. It'll be greater traffic than goes down Fish Road, no question. But it's 20 to 25 employees. Odor mitigation, always an issue. It was an issue when we came before you before with the Chase Avenue project. We are going to retain the same consultants we used at DMA. We'll have the same sort of systems, self-contained environments, chlorine dioxide and carbon scrubber units. So we'll make all the attempts we're making at Chase Avenue to mitigate odor. And finally, when you have greenhouses, you always have a question about visual disturbance. Late at night, a big glowing mass of light. The way we can resolve this is fairly straightforward. All of these greenhouses come with what is known as light deprivation systems, which allow you during daylight hours to close out the light if you are on a cycle where you don't want light coming in. But they have the added advantage that during the night, when you want to put artificial light on it, you can still close off the light deprivation systems. And that in essence, negates entirely the issue of visual disturbance. Now, I'll also cite that, as you guys know, it's a remote location. Our view is that there's only one neighbor that's actually got a sight line, and we'll handle perimeter fencing in a manner to mitigate that, even though the light deprivation systems will handle it. All right. So this gives you a picture. I mean, you've probably all been inside greenhouses, but these are greenhouses with cannabis in them. So this is what it looks like. Sometimes the setup is with tables, so it's raised off the ground. Sometimes it's on the ground. You can see barely off to the sides the light deprivation systems, which are screens that come across on pulleys to shut out the light. And you can see both lighting and there's irrigation systems and fertigation systems inside. These can be very sophisticated or less sophisticated. The ones we'll put up are going to be very sophisticated because we're trying to grow product that is as close to what we will ultimately grow indoors at Chase Avenue, so that we can then consume the product in DMAs, retail establishments, and sell it wholesale as well. Nick, you want to lead us through sort of the schedule and procedural steps?
So we did propose and provided Mr. Ruda with the draft host agreement. Ultimately, what we did was take the host agreement that this board has already agreed to with DMA, which would be the 3% per year of gross sales. The only real change we made to it was a slight reduction in the overall charitable contribution back to the town. We're proposing $10,000 per year in charitable contribution on top of the 3%. We have set up a community outreach meeting to occur on April 7th of this year. It's going to happen at 35 Chase Ave due to the fact that we're still in social distancing and things along those lines. With a facility of that size, we can spread people out if they do show up. So we can answer any questions that they have and provide them with a similar presentation to what we gave you today. I can tell you that community outreach notice was in the Webster Times this past Friday. Abutters letters to 8 abutters within the 300 feet did go out today. I did provide Mr. Ruda with a copy of the legal notice, and that will also be going to the town planner, as well as the town clerk, so that they can post it in their areas. Our hope is that we can answer any questions that the board may have and attempt to come back on April 5th to potentially have a host agreement agreed to and signed by this board, with the provision that community outreach meeting be successful on the 7th. And there is a paragraph in that draft agreement that I provided you that indicates that. Our hope is that with those targets, we would be able to submit our completed application by the end of that week or early the following week, and aim for a provisional license in May or June from the Cannabis Control Commission. And then following that, and during that period of time, we would be starting to put together all the documents we would need for the special permit process with the planning board. We would meet with the police chief so we can go through all the security apparatuses that we're planning, get his feedback, and make sure that he's happy with what we're proposing, get a security plan from a security consultant in front of him, just like we did for Chase Ave. Talk to the fire chief. I believe that John's already had some initial conversations with him, and ultimately talk with the town planner so that we can prepare that special permit application, so that when we get before that board, we can make this a very similar presentation that we did a few months ago. And ultimately, I think that with the amount of infrastructure and the way that John has a good team behind him that can do most of the construction work, there is a real hope here that our first cultivation and harvest could occur by the end of this year, because it's a different build out than 35 Chase Ave. It will be much quicker to get that first harvest done. So that would bring substantial revenue in this upcoming municipal year that the town can potentially have in its general budget.
And Nick, just to back that real quick, just to be clear, this does not stop or slow anything down at Chase Ave. This actually increases what Chase Ave is doing, is going to allow us to actually put out our own grown product sooner than later before the cultivation on 35 Chase Ave is done, because it does take longer doing the indoor cultivation. So I just wanted to be clear with that.
Great, Nick, thanks. Why don't we just throw it open to questions from the board, and we'll try to address whatever questions you have.
Any board members have any questions?
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Sullivan.
to Mr. Reuter or to the applicant, does this fall under the major site plan review process?
Off the top of my head, I'm not positive. I know that John is going for a site plan for the project in general. So he's going to put together a brand new site plan with, an engineer and all that. Our hope is that while that's being prepared, we can ultimately piggyback on top of that, so that we'll have the documentation and maps available for the planning board concerning this special use.
Okay, because it just dovetails into my question. I'm fairly certain that area is already zoned properly, so it wouldn't require any action at town meeting, right?
It would not. It is zoned by town meeting. I believe it's the industrial sector that was zoned for this special use. So there would be no need to go back to town meeting and ask for a rezoning.
To the applicant, LI 130 over there, right?
And yeah, industrial 130, correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else have any questions?
I just had one, Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Certainly, Chief.
I saw the obviously cameras and everything like that, but it did say on-site security. Were you planning on having someone there, like around the clock, like a security personnel? Or how's that planned out?
That's the current intent, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Marcy.
Hi, guys. Thanks for coming in with this. Always looking for new ways to grow economic development in Dudley and include high value agriculture at the same time. So this is good. Maybe you said this, but in a different way, will DMA be the only customer of Fish Road LLC, or will it be allowed to sell to other places?
That's a great question. I think you ought to think about it as having a contract, a master contract, that is whatever DMA can eat, they get to eat, but does not preclude the joint venture from selling outside if DMA cannot take the total output.
Right. That's where I was going with that. Like, what if they have a bumper crop and want to have other people so they can drive more revenue? Yeah.
Nobody's destroying any product.
I didn't think so, but
and as you gentlemen know, the demand for quality product in the state is pretty high right now. And so we will have our agreement with DMA, or I'm saying we on both sides of it, but Fish Road will have its agreement with DMA, and it'll be a long-term purchase agreement, and it will obligate DMA to take certain minimum amounts, which will be pretty high. I'm sure that it's DMA's intent, speaking to the mirror here, to take it all. But we will not tell the JV that they can't sell on the outside if we're not able to take it all.
perfect. That way everybody wins. That's where I was going.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, thanks. Appreciate it.
I've got something. I just want to clarify this for the people at home. So this is simply a grow facility. There is no retail happening at this facility on Fish Road, correct?
100% correct.
That's accurate.
So I just wanted to make sure that was clear to the folks watching. That's all.
And no manufacturing. So to be clear, the license that the joint venture will be seeking will be a cultivation license, not a retail license, not a manufacturing license.
The product is grown, and then that grown product is taken somewhere else for either processing, sale, what have you.
You know, there may be some drying and curing done on site, but in all likelihood, it will be moved under the contract undried, uncured to the DMA facility where there's a lot of capacity for drying and curing. It's my guess. Now, we still may decide to have some drying and curing or pre-drying at the site. But yes, for the most part, this is just grow.
So, Mr.
Does
Chairman,
anyone else have any questions?
just a quick one to tag on to what Mr. Lahar just said. So any pre-drying would fall under the scope of the license. We wouldn't have to come back and revisit this issue. We'll wrap it all up.
Yeah. Post-harvest processing is taken care of in the cultivation license.
Okay,
You don't cross over into the manufacturing world until you start to extract or develop edibles or something along those lines.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Johnson,
just looking at the site map, is it entirely new buildings or with some renovation of some older buildings?
All new construction. There, where you see that gray box, there is nothing. It's dirt.
Dave, you're proposing what, eight greenhouses at this time?
Yeah, 8 6,500 square foot greenhouses. And that aggregates roughly the 50,000 square feet.
anything else?
I'm good,
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Chairman.
just to follow up on, Mr. Sullivan mentioned major site plan review. I just wanted to let the board know that the planner is already being communicated with and is involved in this whole process. So
Good.
we're not missing anything on their end.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Ruda, what's our next step here?
Our next step here is to, I'll contact members of the board individually and get some feedback on the host community agreement. We'll move forward from there.
Council review?
Yep.
That should be easy. You put it together.
That's what I was thinking.
Sometimes you ask the question when you know the answer.
So we would love to come back for that next meeting that you guys have on April 5th. And hopefully at that point, we can answer any follow-up questions. And like I said, we do have that April 7th community outreach meeting so that we can answer any questions that the community may have, and give them a presentation if they want to come down to the facility on Chase Ave and, learn more about this project.
Mr. Chairman, it also might be good to have some like numbers and what it would mean to the town. We mentioned budget. We're going to be talking about budget later today and what that might mean in the fall if this comes to fruition. So some numbers would be nice.
Yeah, we can absolutely put together a set of projections based
Sure.
upon when harvest actually hits and sort of the pricing that DMA is looking at paying for the output and sort of the ramp on output. We'll give you a sense of it.
Great. Thanks, David.
Anything else? Nothing? Well, we thank you all for coming and looks like we'll speak again soon.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Much.
Thank you, guys.
And make sure you give me the host privilege back.
I gave you, I stopped sharing my screen.
Yeah, you've got to go to the dots next to my box and
Well,
make
Dave,
me
if you leave, then